And as we know, spring is a time of renewed life force, energy, vitality, and growth in nature. And we all have at our disposal an inexhaustible source of life force and energy that originates in the fountainhead of our own divine spirit and in the cosmic fountain of the sun and the spiritual sun behind the physical sun. So it's all a matter of tapping into it. And we have Jon with us tonight, Jon Rasmussen. And as many of you know, Jon is an authentic shaman. He's the real deal, trained in Peru, in the lineage of the Caro Indians in the high Andes of Peru. And he's going to talk to us on that theme of accessing limitless life force. So fasten your seatbelts. And we'll also do, of course, a shamanic ritual and journey. And please join me in giving Jon a warm hand. Thank you.
Thanks, Jon. Thank you, Emory. All right, seatbelts fastened up. Actually, tonight is going to be actually a little bit different than I've done. I see a lot of new faces and some faces that have been here before. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, but basically, when I normally do these talks in any kind of shamanic session, we often will, rattle and drum and open space, and you see a lot of stuff going on. And the message I got tonight was to more basking grace, more to show that shamanism also can be effortless. I'm going to still guide you on a journey. We're going to do that, and I'm going to give you some simple techniques that I think will fit the theme tonight and be really, really powerful for you going forward. But it's going to be like the first spring flower. It's going to be very delicate tonight.
You can unfasten your seatbelt.
Yeah, so that's why I was laughing, because it's like the opposite. Basically, you could just lounge anyway. So, but let me start a little bit by saying that people often ask me, how's shamanism different from, spiritual traditions, yogic practices, religion, and all these things. And what I really love about shamanism, actually, amongst many things, is that it's fundamentally open. It's an open thing, and it's practical and pragmatic. So it's sort of the underpinnings, the sort of processes and techniques that a lot of these other traditions have built upon and branched out from. That's true shamanism. So it can be, like a spiritual meditation, visualization process. It can be dancing and drumming and swords and a lot of physical activity. And it can be just faith and prayer. That's all a part of shamanism. So tonight we're going to show a little bit of that. Basically, I'm going to go in more of the route of this sort of gentle aspect of it. And so my teachers, my Caro teachers from Peru, I've talked about this before. They talk about, and this is very universal really, any shamanic culture, indigenous culture recognizes this, and we all come from that, no matter our DNA. If you go back far enough, everybody had, this as part of life. But there's the 4 layers of our being, or all of creation. And the idea here is that shamanism has the ability to sort of access any one of those. And each of the layers of your being influences or creates the next. Sort of like a magnet under a plate of glass and iron filings will organize the iron filings around the magnetic field. That's a good way. Or the Russian nested dolls. Okay? And the outer layer essentially is your life experiences day to day through your lifetime here in the theater. And, around your health, your relationships, your work, your resources, are we having more of the experiences we want and less of the ones we don't want? More pleasure than pain, right? More joy. And shamanism, the fundamental sort of goal, if you will, is to have the freedom and power to ask and receive those life experiences as deliberately and consciously, of course, as you can. Because a lot of stuff just happens in the theater as well, and we get hit with things, and that's okay. That's all right. That's good. It's just when things are more painful and sort of repeat as patterns that it's kind of good to maybe go after, because that's not freedom anymore, which is the basis of life. That's bondage to some kind of old experience, an old trauma, an old painful experience in this life or previous or through your ancestors, right? So we really the reason we do all of this stuff is to see, can we create more heaven on earth than otherwise, essentially. The second layer is the mind, right? The psycho-spiritual, all the practices that have to do with, are you focusing your thoughts and attention on what you prefer more than what you don't? So we understand all those things, the placebo effect, the power of positive thinking, all these beautiful spiritual and psychological techniques, right? And so again, it'd be nice if we have the sort of skill or the ability or the freedom to do that, to change our perception and our attitudes about any given event, to as the shamans say, the story you tell becomes your reality. So what story is going on in there? And is it your story, or is it something else somebody else told you, or something you were taught? And what's the story you would prefer to be telling around any event? That hurt, but I'll be okay. Versus that hurt, and now I think my life is ruined. Do you see what I'm saying? Lots of different ways to do that. And everybody is allowed to have their own story around an identical event that happens in front of all of us. So it's up to you, ideally, to choose, right? We're familiar with these teachings. The third layer is what we call the mythic. So these are sort of very archetypal subconscious beliefs and stories that were passed down to us, that were in our neighborhood, that sort of like we grew up with, or family, culture stories, religious stories. Things like no pain, no gain, or life's a struggle, or you only learn through suffering, or life's a school, you just keep getting lessons until maybe you graduate or something. There are lots of different stories, right? Shamans basically, as I've studied over the many, many years with all these different cultures, their fundamental myth and story is that this is a beautiful theater. It's a beautiful opportunity to play and to create and experience each other, or God experiencing herself or himself. In other words, there's a lot of different ways to look at it in different forms. And the way that we generally access that layer, because this is sort of mental and therapy and talk, and this is more physical, literally like doing things, which again can be shamanic as well, physical therapy, these kinds of things. The mythic layer is through ritual and ceremony, images and symbols, art, music, poetry. Less prose, more feeling-based. Okay? So, we're surrounded by every one of these sort of images and symbols, all these magical things. They come from some culture and some tradition that's how they access this layer. It's universal, fundamentally, but the images and symbols can differ. And a big part of shamanism is essentially choosing or creating the images and symbols and artifacts and objects that would support your ideal story, your ideal myths. So it's more about you, as in a sense, assigning the meaning. You could look at an object and it's it's some kind of shape, or it's some kind of color, or it's some kind of gem, and there may be some context for it in some culture. This is what it means, this is what you use it for, and that's great. You can go with that. But in a lot of ways, you can also just decide this is for this. This is going to help me with this part of my life. So it's more of an act of power. It's more of you engaging the mythic, engaging these forces of nature, animal totems, all these kinds of things in the way that resonates with you and that has meaning for you. And then building an altar. In all of these traditions, altars are that's exactly what they are, basically. They're sort of a collection and a combination of things that have meaning for us and that support us. In the Karo tradition, there's 13 stones. This is a mesa, it's an altar, it's sort of a portable altar, right? There's 13 stones in here, each of which has gone through my journey of training and healing with me. And so they contain a tremendous amount of layers of information and knowledge that then when I work with somebody, I use these to help communicate with me what's going on with them, make it really easy and graceful, as well as do healing, pull energies and things, so I don't have to. So shamanism is sort of, again, is there a graceful, easier way to do things? And the mythic is a really great way to do that. Right? Everybody kind of familiar with that idea? And then the fourth layer, of course, is our soul. It's the orange chakras in Sanskrit, it's anima in Italian. Everybody's got this. And this is our blueprint. This is you, even when these physical bodies are gone. This is the essential self, they call it. This is your eternal self. This is the you that holds your consciousness and identity and patterns and past life stuff and all kinds of things like that. And it has an influence on these other layers, and it could either be working for you or, making it harder to get what you want. So a lot of the work that I do, of course, goes directly to that layer and removes old patterns and heavy energies that don't match what you want. And then we work downstream. We do the mythic next, and then the mindful stuff, and then physical stuff. And that's kind of a nice, easy, efficient way to work on these things. And it all depends greatly on this concept of grace, which I started by saying, because there's only sort of so much we can do, to get there. And we depend a lot on some unseen forces and energies or beings. In my case, this lineage of shamans that I've been, connected to, that show up when I show up, and any other number of our religious, figures and spiritual beings, And this concept of grace is it's unconditional. And that's such a weird thing for us. We think, well, in order for me to have my team show up, I need to open space. I need to call on them. That's why tonight I'm saying, no, let's do it a little differently. Let's allow this grace for us to bask in this idea that they get it and they'll be there anyway. Does that make sense? A little bit? And then that also calls on faith to recognize, yeah, they'll be here. So that's what's going to happen tonight. And I think the reason that came to me this way is that the sort of theme of tonight and the spring equinox and everything is that how does the flower come out? Like how does the seed produce the flower, and what's going on here, right? This source, this God source, this however you want to call it. There's a name in every language. Ilaticha Witakocha Wakantanka Kausai Alaha in Aramaic, which means the one and only absolute being in the room. The one absolute and only being in the room. There's something here. It's sort of quantum physics in a sense. It's the mysterious energy that makes everything happen that scientists can't measure yet, but they know it has to be here. So, everything has access or some recognition of it. So I just simply want to acknowledge that for tonight, that's what we are sitting in. Less effort, at least tonight. Almost, I'm not going to do my normal stuff. As fun as it is. There's a lot for my own fun anyway, right? In a way, and I know you would enjoy it too. But tonight we're just going to assume that it's here. Assume that we're protected. Assume that we're safe. Assume we're held in this amazing space together. How's that sound?
Good.
Pretty good. And then, so the theme, of course, is this idea that because of grace, because of the fact that there isn't anything expected of us per se other than to take advantage of it and ask and receive, there is this unlimited source of energy and creative energy and healing energy and manifesting energy available. And are you accessing it in the most effective way, essentially, and are you letting it in, or are you trying too hard and getting in the way and thinking you got to do it all, not letting grace happen? I got to do this and that and this and that, otherwise I'll never be able to manifest, right? So tonight I want to explore the aspect of shamanism that is very open and very unconditional and natural and primal, simple. We've complicated things because this thing loves the complication, and that, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's all good. But if you go to the Karo tribes and a lot of these other places, it's very simple, and it's not serious. It's not heavy. It's very light. They laugh and giggle and all kinds of things when they're doing, and joke with each other when they are doing their rituals and ceremonies, because it's actually more of a match to this creative source that we are, that is obviously here for the humor more than anything, I think, right? You've heard the funny little memes about searching for intelligent life on Earth and not finding it, or or God's big joke or something like that, And if you just spend a little time, it's pretty clear we're pretty funny. So, and tragic, and all the theater pieces. But so there is this technique that I've learned from in several different ways from different parts of the world. This is a technique that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, written by the Essenes, and it's their technique for healing and manifesting and all that. I was just at like a Joe Dispenza thing, and I recognized, it's the same. It's kind of essentially the same technique. It's kind of a different way to think about it and get there and go there, because he's very scientific oriented and neuroscience, right? So there's neuroscience in shamanism, there's regular science, there's quantum science. It's all part of it, part of the deal. So use, as much of whatever it is that works for you as you want, right? Does that make sense? So, It's a way of creating enough space and freedom outside of the normal thinking we're doing all the time, overheated, overrated. Less of the physical stuff we think we gotta do this, don't do this, okay? And it steps more into the direct energetic and sort of mythic field. And that's a good way to think about it. It is a field. It's like a quantum field. We don't know where it is. We don't know what it is really. But that unknown and that unknowable is what's makes everything happen. Everything possible here in the theater, basically. So, but we can access it really directly. So that's what we're going to do. Any questions at this point about anything before we do this simple, graceful technique? You good? Okay. So the field is, Deepak Chopra talks about it in terms of like what does he say? Pure potentiality or something like that, right? Everybody's got a different way of talking about it. And that's what it is. It's the quantum field. It's unlimited. It's unconditional. It's available. It responds to your asking. It creates synchronicities and opportunities and changes in all these layers to more closely match what you're asking for experientially. So this technique, maybe just let's see. So we're gonna have the breath help us access it, and then we're gonna just kind of guide you mentally to it. So take a few deep breaths. And the idea here again is that we are just essentially allowing the field in a way. Already knows what we want. It already is able to access the deepest part of what you desire or what you want to experience in life. So you don't even have to use your brain to think of that right now. You've already been doing that a lot. So just the breath. Feel it filling your lungs. See if you can feel your heart beating in your chest a little bit. You can feel it in your breath sometimes. Now I want you to, as you breathe in, imagine riding on your breath, following it down into your chest. Literally like an amusement park ride. You're just going to slide on down with the breath. Your consciousness, your imagination. So you end up sort of sitting right there next to your heart. As if you're nestled on top of your heart with your lungs to either side and just sitting there feeling that beat. Because your consciousness is non-physical, you can slip right into your heart, just fall right in to the center of your heart. blood rushing by. All those cells in unison contracting this beautiful field of intelligence, grace. And imagine there's a beam of light that's like these transport beams coming down into the top of your heart. And you're able to effortlessly ascend that beam of light out of your body, out of the space, all the way up, watching the planet fall away, and you're going out into empty space. Essentially where there is nothing but that one absolute only field of infinite quantum energy. It is everywhere. It's here too. It's between every cell and every part of the physical world, but I want you to just go up and experience it. Just rest there for a little bit. And imagining that which they call the void, this is that. It is not void, it's filled with infinite energy, but there's not much else there. But you're there. And time doesn't even exist there, so basically nothing has happened yet. Nothing is manifested, maybe not even the earth or the sun or the stars. It's just the void. It's just pure potential energy. And then you have a little creative spark. I can create anything. I can experience anything. And the void will manifest it. It'll create it. So you could imagine creating this beautiful earth, this heavenly place, this beautiful theater. And you can imagine experiencing what it might be like to be the earth itself as a living being, as a child of this source energy. Just imagine it. Just rest with it. Sit with it. And you can create the stars and all the cool things in the universe. Unimaginable beauty. And just sort of like breathe it into being. And the source energy responds with even more than you can imagine because of its grace. Then you can imagine what it's like to be on this planet in your most ideal vision. Your most ideal experience is breathing in clean, fresh air, basking in the warmth of the sun, feeling the breeze on your skin, feeling the joy in your heart like a child who's opened their eyes for the first time. Seeing other bright, beautiful beings, other children, smiling, seeing the source in them, seeing the beauty of their soul and their uniqueness. Bringing in anything you want, anything that would help you to create even more, to experience more joy, more light, more freedom and laughter and unconditional love and support. Abundance and pleasure of the six senses of your body. Always remembering that that source is available to create even more. Simple things. Even a little bit of contrast, even a little bit of pain, even a little bit of doubt and questioning, it's all part of this, but it's very fleeting, that. It's very easy for you to move back to the grace and the ease. Now just back in your heart, the warm blood moving around you. Following your breath back up to behind your eyes. Gently opening your eyes and looking around and noticing that all of this is a part of this process that you have done since the beginning of time. And a lot of it it's all beautiful in here, but when you think about other stuff, you can recognize it can be a little funny. A little bit like, oh, whoops, I didn't really, that was a little bit of a, but it's okay. It's okay, we're still going, we're still working on it, we're still rearranging the stage and the act of the scripts and the actors and the plots and the props. It's not finished. It's not even close. We're just getting used to doing this kind of stuff. Very new. We've taken some left turns and we're crawling our way back and this and that, but We have like eternity ahead of us, so there's really no rush. That's something shamans have learned to count on, this timeless, circular, eternal aspect of all of creation and all of everything. So it's what happens to us physically, physiologically, neuroscience and all that when we go up and out and try to, just imagine for a moment being in the void and the space and sort of just the light and love of source and potentiality, is that our brain waves change, everything changes. Goes to theta, you might have heard this is what I was talking about, the theta healing thing. Goes to theta, sometimes goes to gamma, it does a whole kinds of stuff. So there is real science behind how that can change our lives, our DNA, our bodies, all kinds of stuff. But it's not, again, we might end up getting into that, am I doing it good? Am I not doing it good? Am I good at manifesting? Was I good at what we just did, or wasn't I not able to do it? That's not grace anymore. That's your effort. That's you thinking you got to do it. And you don't. Even if you sat here and went, I've never been able to imagine it. I have no idea what John's talking about. I just can't. I'm just going to sit here. Pretend like I'm doing it. Even if you did that, it happened. It worked. You know what I mean? It still worked. You just not, this is just not used to it, right, for a long time. So, but, that doesn't care. This is nothing. This is not an obstacle to source, right? It knows what's going on. You just have to take a moment, any way you want, and this is where, the rattles and the drum, whatever you like to do. Lighting candles, any ritual or anything. This was very simple. This was to show you that you kind of can just show up and sit and do it. You had to listen to me for a little bit. But that's even not necessary. So, I just wanted you to feel it a little bit in our space, because doing it all together sort of, it kind of creates a little bit of a suction, to help you get there. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter when it's happening. It doesn't matter what state you're in. You can always access the infinite source and light and grace, like really simply. Just kind of just imagine going there, floating out in space. And then come back and be like, okay, I just did it. And because of the way this is all set up and who you've been since the beginning of time, and your embodying of that, and your resonance with that, whether you forget that or not, or remember that or not, it's like a lightning bolt. How it depends on both ions from the base and the cloud, and sometimes they go up and sometimes they go down, and like that. So it's that. It's lightning. And in the Karo tradition, the word is Ilyapa in Quechua. It's lightning. The initiation rites, sort of everything we do happens in this that same idea, connecting to the Kausai, the energies, the infinite energies of Source. Viticha Viracocha, the wellspring of energy. translated. It's just sitting there. And it's sort of everywhere, but we use a little bit of a metaphor, right? But okay. Any questions about any of that, or any
I got a comments. I have a hard time breathing, relaxing and breathing. I had a therapist around the corner say, breathe, Michael. And then I had a sports guy, my trainer, he goes, quit, breathe. And I don't breathe,
Yeah.
I just hold it like, oh no. So doing this exercise is like, notice I just holding it when I should be more relaxed and breathing, and I don't know why.
Okay.
And I've also tried to become a molecule and float through the universe before.
Okay.
And it was kind of weird, it was dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm got cruising around, I didn't know if I could hear or see, but it's tiny like a molecule.
Yeah. Good. You did it, and you didn't have to know how to breathe
Done
to do
at
it.
home.
That's a good example. I know there's teachings that say do this, do that, got to do this, got to do that, but actually you kind of don't. You can just you can just go. You can just access it. Whether you see it as your molecule or nothing.
I tried to stop my heart too.
Okay.
And
yeah. Well.
I read up like you can't do it. Your body will want to stay alive, and I can't sit there and like shut everything down.
Right.
You'll just keep taking care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Grace. That was my point. Like you're here. It's all grace. It's a miracle. It's miraculous. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't need to. It doesn't. You can't. It's not about controlling it and everything. And you just figured all that out, right? So that's great. And that's the beauty. I mean, this is the point. This is it's the experiment, right? It's like, who are we? What can we do? This is the beginnings of the teachings. Somebody sat there and went, 200,000 years ago and went, well, what's going on? What is this thing called breath? Why do I need to do it? Maybe I could stop it. And then they passed out and they went, oh. Yeah, not really. Right? And then they wrote a book, the Bhagavad Gita or something, They said, here's the deal. This is what I figured out. Right? So yeah, no, it's all good.
And we have that book on the shelf.
Yeah. You have everything here you could ever possibly need to. And so, but actually that's a great reminder because we've talked about it and, you can go on philosophically, and then we had a little bit of an experience of it on the energetic level just by virtue of the fact that we did something a little different. And you can, I want you to take away what I started talking about, which is, don't just walk away with this in your head. What did Jon say? That was kind of weird. I kind of feel like, what? Because that happens. Or how do you do that again? Don't just walk away with that. You can anchor it in your subconscious, which is below the mind, which doesn't need the mind, through art, music, poetry, ritual, ceremony. Which of these objects and paintings and things would represent you asking and receiving unconditionally pure grace from Source? I could pick up anything in here and say this will do it. This is the thing. This is me connecting to Source. You know what I mean? And of course the beauty of all the different gods and goddesses and totems and things is that it might resonate with something you've done or been, and that might speak to you in a very, very real and specific way. and it's different for you, and then you, and then you, like everyone else. Oh no, I'm into this one, and I love this one. But it's not about that. It's not about the thing. Those are just, they may be real beings, right? But they're also archetypal representations of this kind of teaching. Just been made a little more complicated.
Do you need an object?
Well, do you need an object? Art, music, poetry, images, symbols, not necessarily movement would do it. A poem would do it. Yeah. Right? It's just something other than words, like, here's how you connect to that thing. You know what I mean? Like what I've been doing. Just, or you can read. It's just, you can take advantage of this part of your being that's otherwise influenced by a lot of other myths out there, right? That are mostly unconscious and mostly just kind of, sales and marketing and advertising and images and symbols. It's like, that's there. But wouldn't you want to advertise to yourself what it means to just sit in grace and receive source without condition, without having to do anything, and have it change things for you in a way that you would like them to change? So that's how we do it. You're creating your own advertising campaign for the world you'd prefer. Is that right? I mean, it's kind of it. Yes.
Question. When accessing the unknown, sometimes I have trouble staying grounded and in my human body in this earth school. So, and with the lifestyle we have here in America or California, with it being so action oriented, do you have any suggestions on how to access that stillness and that infinite energy when things are happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how to stay grounded?
Right. So let me ask you this, because you something slipped out. And you're asking. So remember school? Remember grade school or whatever?
Yeah.
When you were sitting in class and they were going through the math or whatever it was, were you mostly present or just kind of like?
I think I was constantly moving.
Yeah.
I was one of those leg
right.
tappers.
So you
or
had to do something to stay
pencil
awake.
mover.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Now when you were on recess, what was that like? You were just like
playing soccer.
You were in it, right? You were grounded because you were doing what you loved. You were.
Yeah.
So you said Earth School, right? That's a myth that says this is the classroom. I think it's the playground.
Okay.
I think it's recess. So I would change that first.
Okay.
To give you, my shamanic advice if I was working with you, it would be like,
that feels better.
yeah, create take you sitting in the classroom and say, this is Earth, this is the whole purpose of this thing, and burn or bury that, and then make a picture of you just playing soccer out on the field.
Yeah.
And say, okay, this is actually the reason for Earth. Now, how grounded can I stay? No matter what else is going on. I think that'll help, number one. Secondly, when everything's bombarding you and your mind is like what you actually asked, it's just that simple. It's like, just take a second and imagine going off and, and if you do this a little bit over time, you actually get good at it. It's a practice you can relearn, right? Mm-hmm. So just sort of rise, literally unground, deliberately go way out. Go all the way out to space, look down at the blue globe in your mind. Just take a second and just be like, I'm way out here. That connects you. It's it doesn't have, you don't have to do it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. It's like no time, so it's instant. You're there. Everything gets done that needs to get done.
I have that experience sometimes without, like, intentionally
Right.
accessing
That's
it, where
why-
I just see myself.
Yeah. So if you do it intentionally, it'll happen less unintentionally,
Okay.
and you'll get more masterful at going. Now's a good time to actually be grounded and not go out there,
Okay.
and now's a good time to go out there.
Hmm.
So you're more deliberately mastering
Okay.
the process. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because like I said, it's something I think we've known since we've been, God knows, maybe even stone people, let alone Homo sapiens. But so this is not new. It's something we're familiar with, and so unconsciously, this wisdom within you was like, this is the thing to do. And you just didn't, you didn't know what was happening per se. You just thought, I'm ungrounded. I want to stay. I can't. I just disappear.
Right.
And I'm just saying, yeah, no, it was all meant to be more deliberate and in your control, which again is the opposite of school, where you can only do it if the teacher tells you to, and so on and so forth. So again, that myth is a it's not the world I'd want to live in.
I think that's the part of me that, like, this can be really challenging.
Sure, it'll just take
But
a little
to
bit of
change
practice.
the perspective of
Yeah, you got to
this is our
change that myth.
playground.
So
It's really
to
helpful.
change that in your mind, it's always more powerful to access the mythic. So literally create the thing, do a little ritual, right? I really meant that, like do that physically, and then you'll find that all of a sudden it's not as challenging mentally, because this influences that.
Do what physically? Sorry.
Physically, see, I'm the teacher now, and you're like, you're gone. This is so awesome. It's so obvious, right? What did you say? I wasn't here. No, it's awesome, right? It's beautiful. So, okay.
Okay.
Sketch a picture of you sitting in the classroom in the desk.
Okay.
Life and make it a globe and say, life, the purpose of life is school. To learn, right? Learning happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's a product of an expansion and growth and all that, but it's not the purpose to shamans. Shamans recognize it's really just a theater, and all this stuff happens as a part of it. And we've been upside down for a while, so we're struggling. We have to do a lot more of that than we normally would. The Karo don't do a lot of it. The natural humans. Anyway, so create that picture, crumble it up,
Can I burn it?
burn it.
Yeah. I wanted to burn
create-
something.
Yeah. Then create or get or gather, a picture that represents the playground, recess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just put that on your altar. Create an altar
Mhm.
around it.
Mhm.
That's me, and then everything else supports me in that. All the Buddhas and all the this and all the that
Right.
want me to do that and will help me do that by their grace. Because they didn't have rules really until somebody created sort of a religion around them, made rules.
Yeah, there's a
but-
lot of rules out there.
Yeah, and that's the opposite of grace. Grace is just, you literally don't have to do anything and you still get the stuff. Still get the help.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I used to be able to bounce in my dreams, and it quit, and I don't know why it started. And it was kind of fun, it's like bouncing around town and stuff.
Oh,
and
it is fun.
Or through tunnels, and then it doesn't bounce no more. And I because I go to sleep and get the bounce around.
That may be enough that you just brought it up. You may start doing it again. You just probably forgot. You can ask and say, I want to bounce.
I want
some
to
more."
bounce again.
Right? Make a picture, paint. You're an amazing artist, I know. I love your work, and just paint a picture of you bouncing.
All right.
That's your altar. My whole purpose of life is to bounce around in my dreams and
Maybe reality.
maybe reality someday, right?
All right.
Like the flying dreams. I love the flying one. Running like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Anyway. Sorry. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
I've been kind of silly wanting to have a ceremony at the, like when sunset, and I try to explain it to people, and I don't know what kind of ceremony. Like an aborigine with a didgeridoo
Okay.
or something, and it represents the end of the day and rebirth or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know where. I could sit in the garage, you know, sometimes I watch the sunset there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should get a drum and stuff, or my neighbors would get all like
Why
kind
not?
of mad, or I could attend a rock band and really make the place go crazy. But I don't know, I just feel
Go to
like
the
it should
beach.
be a ceremony.
Go to the beach and do it. I think that's fun. You know, the natives, I once learned, I think it was through Castaneda's work, right, that when the sun was setting, they would run in place like they're chasing it. That's the ceremony. Like an act of love for the sun. To make sure it comes up the next day. So yeah, do it. Do it, of course. Ceremonies, that's the point. It's awesome stuff. What was your question?
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of what she was saying. I feel like I'm very grounded and just kind of rooted in what's going on, and I'm very content in like the hibernation phase of like winter. And so I was just curious if you had anything to say about kind of accessing the spring energy and just kind of like waking up and getting motivated and things like that.
Grace. Let it, I mean, you obviously are in touch in a way with the seasons, right? You go into the hibernation, this is natural, less sunlight, et cetera, et cetera. As long as you're just okay with it, you know, I think it's just about letting go of I should or have to do anything, and just sort of observe how you naturally want to get up a little earlier and naturally feel a little more energy and maybe want to go out, you know. So just make it more graceful. Make it less about I got to figure out what to do. I mean, tonight was, you know, one way to, that was the whole thing, was now's a good time to plug in, right? Like the flower coming out of the ground going, I want sun now. You know?
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. Just start with that, you know what I mean? Start with the process. Or even make a picture of you that you know, or like get a picture of a flower, et cetera, that looks like, that makes you feel like that. What you just articulated to me, if you anchor it in visual form, again, it will just be that much more of a powerful thing, an easier thing. Yep. So it's not so much there. All right. I think we're good, yeah? Thank you so much for coming and participating so gracefully in this tonight, and allowing me to do it a little bit differently than you might have been used to. But I put these on my YouTube channel, so you can, like, there's years now of each of the equinoxes and solstices that we've done here, and a lot of other things, a lot of me doing sessions and rituals and opening space. So, you know, it's out there and you can check it out. And Emory sells my book and CDs.
Right, we have Jon's book, Dreaming Your World into Being, and several of his CDs, so they're available.
Yep.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you.
Happy springtime.
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great.